Cue the conversation!
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cue the Conversation. My name is Bryson Foster, and I'm joined by my main man.
What's going on, Paul Amadeus Lane? That is me. I always love to hang out with B Faust, B Money. That's my man right there doing his thing. And we are so delighted to have you on this edition of Cue the Conversation. So before Bryson and I get to talking and jibber jabbing and everything, do us a huge favor. Because you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell of all these episodes. We really appreciate all the support we have gotten on this podcast. Bryson and I are just amazed. Thank you so much. And share it with others who would like to know more about the conversation. So, Bryson, what's the latest and the greatest, man?
Not much, Paul, but October is a really great month. We got Halloween, got a lot going on, but also something we have to be mindful of is that it's National Physical Therapist Month. And Paul, physical therapists are so instrumental to people with disabilities, getting the care that they need, staying limber, and also kind of helping us maintain our conditions. And I know, Paul, we both have connections to physical therapists, and we get to speak to one that is pioneering her field. And so, Paul, we got a really exciting episode today. I'm excited to hear all that's going on with our guest, Jean. We'll talk about her a little bit more. But Paul, thoughts, expectations for today? I'm excited about this one.
I am too, and I am so glad we're having Gene. Gene has an Abilities Expo connection. Me being also an ambassador for the Abilities Expo, it's always great to see this intersection that we have, which is incredible people who are able to help our community out so much when it comes to something so important as therapy. Physical therapy is so important for us, Bryson. I know when I first got hurt and injured, I was in Rancho Los Amigos Medical Center, had a lot of physical therapy, but when I got out, I didn't have that much therapy. So it's always great to talk to therapists to see what we can do post injury to keep ourselves together, help our caregivers out and our family members. And Bryson, when you go through any type of physical therapy, something tells me the therapists just love you. They probably pinch your cheeks and give you hugs and everything, don't they?
Yeah, Paul, it's a real problem. I mean, old ladies pinch my cheeks all the time. Physical therapists do, man. It's hard to get away from it. But yeah, Paul. I mean, I've had some great physical therapists over the years. It's been a while since I've gone to one, but the ones that I had when I was first starting out with my condition, with muscular dystrophy back in the day, were really instrumental in helping me with a lot of my stretches that my parents have done, and kind of helping me find ways to make sure my disability wasn't affecting me as fast as it normally is. Mine's a progressive disorder, so I'm definitely thankful for the physical therapists that have been in my life. But yes, Paul, it's hard with my rosy cheeks. I'm trying to try out for Santa Claus here soon,
Uh,
sadly.
I,
So
I love it. I love it. And Bryson, you know what I've been up to lately?
what you been up
I
to, Paul?
have
Late
been
on us.
I've been working on actually a theme song for our show. As you know, I'm an old musician. I was a musician before I had my automobile accident back in 1993. So I have some musician roots. I was a keyboard player, bass guitar, trumpet. I was just in the music fully. Now with the help of technology, I'm able to create. So I've been creating a lot of different compositions now, and I worked on one for our show, and I'm gonna share it with you offline because I think you're gonna love it, Bryson. When I was doing it and putting it together, I picture you doing your little move how you do. So I think you're gonna like it, Bryson.
I'm excited for it, Paul. I know you had that musical background, and we've had some guests on here that have had some background in music with our friend Jay that we had on a couple weeks ago. And Paul, it's really awesome to see how a lot of assistive technology is kind of helping all of us, and that's going to be a big pillar of our show today. Is kind of to talk about that and how that's helping people with disabilities. But Paul, I'm excited to see what fresh beats you've got for us, and hopefully as we go into the future, everybody will be able to hear it and jam out to it as well.
Absolutely. What really inspired me to do that was, yeah, I guess because he's our producer Keith. Because he's so cool and smooth. Remember when he and I was at the Abilities Expo in Arizona? He and I did our little dance, make him scream like I'm Keith. So that kind of gave me the idea to put something together. Once the song is done, we'll give it to Keith. Keith and the team over at Quantum, they can do a little dance and everything, and we can put it in the intro. I think that'd be pretty cool. What do you say, Bryson?
I agree, Paul. We'll make them scream like we're Keith. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm talking about. I need to put that in the lyrics. Thank you for reminding me. I'm going to put that somewhere in the lyrics. But Bryson and I, we're going to be joined by a very, very special guest. Jean's going to be joining us. And Bryson, when it comes to our guests, that's really the integral part of our show. So I'm so delighted we get a chance to talk to her.
Yes, sir. Super excited to bring Jean on. She's got a lot of great things and great programs that she's a part of. And I think that's the beautiful part about this show, Paul, is that kind of shining a light on some really instrumental programs that are helping make waves for people with disabilities. And so today is no different.
Yes, so stay tuned. We're going to be joined by the amazing Jean Minkel. And if I mispronounced her name, she's going to correct me when I come back. If I got it right, Bryson, I'm going to be happy because Bryson, you and I always, we're afraid of it, right? When it comes to last names that we're not saying it right. So if we got her name correct, and Jay still owes us some gift cards, don't he? If we got it right this time, Jay, we better have some Amazon gift cards in our emails, right? Right, Bryson?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And come on, Paul. You got to keep the streak going. I did it last week. I got it right. I'm gonna be disappointed, Paul, if you got it wrong. But I think you did good. I think you did good. All right, so our guest today, Jean is a physical therapist, a master clinician, well recognized for her work in assistive technology. Jean's a passion for ensuring that people with mobility disabilities have access to the products and services needed to support full participation in life. Now, Jean has a long list of things she's involved with. Jean is the senior vice president of Rehab and Mobility Services for Independence Care System, a not-for-profit care management agency for persons living with physical disabilities in New York City. She also leads On a Roll, an OT/PT private practice specializing in seating and wheel mobility services, serving the Metro New York City community. She's the coordinator of the peer-to-peer wheelchair maintenance program, and just so many great things that she's involved with. And so, at this time, we're going to bring on Jean and get to ask her some really important questions. Hey, Jean, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you guys? It's a great pleasure to join you.
Now, Gene, the question that we had was, now you can keep the streak alive, or we go back
Yeah.
to zero. This is the difference between me and Bryson getting
Mm,
some Amazon gift cards from
mm.
Jay Breezy. Uh, so Gene, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You did. Keep it going, bud. Keep it going. You
We did it,
cash in
Bryson.
those cards.
I love it. I love it. I love it, Gene. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you don't mind, why don't you let our listeners and our viewer out there know about the organization that you represent and just some of the amazing things that you do.
Sure. Well, thanks so much. And uh, as you mentioned earlier, October is Physical Therapy Month, and as a proud physical therapist, I appreciate the chance to share both the profession at broadly and then much more specifically kind of our involvement in seating and wheeled mobility, which I think is probably a topic your audience might have a particular interest in. But Paul, the connection guy here, I noted that you said you were initially rehabbed at Rancho,
Yep.
and in 1981, I was a student at Rancho, so this is
Wow.
a deep connection, my friend.
It
And
is.
interestingly, I was a student on the pediatric spinal cord unit.
Wow.
So pretty early on in my career, I had a real great appreciation for you the role that a well-fitting wheelchair can be
Mhm.
on, providing mobility. And um, to put that in some context, in physical therapy school, we actually have a whole semester on what we call gait class, and how we help people regain the ability to ambulate, and what are the orthotics and prosthetic devices, and what's the strengthening activities for the quads and the glute muscles. Except when those muscles aren't working at all,
Mm,
what are the tools that can really allow somebody mobility? And what I often like to say to people is it, it's how you get around in the world. It's getting around in the world. So wheeled mobility is just another tool that'll let somebody fully participate in life. And it's amazing. Since 1981, when I was at Rancho, literally there was an Evereston Jennings wheelchair,
Mhm.
and we had a couple of specialized cushions. One was called the Roho. Um, I don't know if any of you had ever heard one of competitors to Roho was
Mhm.
called Bye Bye Decubiti. I am not kidding you.
Wow.
But at
You know,
Rancho, one of the specialties was we learned to custom carve cushions
Mhm.
because foam was largely the other modality that we have. And now we look at 2025 and you think about the Abilities Expo and all of the commercial product that's out there. And in some ways, it's really overwhelming. And so, what I really encourage both consumers of wheeled mobility devices and the clinicians that are working with them is enter into a dialogue. What's working for you? What isn't working for you? One of my favorite questions is, what's working for you that you don't want me to mess up in your new chair? Because it's all about function and an environment of use. So I often you would ask me to talk a little bit about the programs that I've been involved in. So I've had the distinct pleasure of working in a whole bunch of different environments, including working with a pediatric population, working with people aging with a disability, and I worked at Helen Hayes Hospital in just outside of New York, and we built a center for assistive technology, and it was a really cool opportunity where um, we were able to combine technology, so seating and mobility, along with computer access, along with augmentative communication, and really looked at the whole person and their whole technology needs. And we used to say when if was somebody able to be discharged home, like that was the gold ring. Well, in 2000, I was invited to join a community-based organization in New York City called Independence Care System. And Independence Care System supports adults with physical disabilities to live in their own homes in the 5 boroughs of New York City. And I can tell you, in 2001, when I went on my first home visit with one of the social workers, this is where the work really begins. Like being in somebody's home, really seeing their environment, uh, have faced with real life access issues, a 19.5-inch doorway into the bathroom, and the person's wheelchair is 25 inches wide. Like, uh, so it's with ICS that I really got to integrate environment of use, functional need, and the person who's lived with their disability, and that I'm now in partnership. And that's a thing that I would say most importantly to professionals working with people who have a lived experience, particularly around living in a wheeled mobility device.
Introducing the new Edge 4, the new and improved mid-wheel drive Group 3 complex rehab power wheelchair from Quantum Rehab. Uniting the best qualities of its predecessors with next-gen features, Edge 4 sets a new standard for mid-wheel drive excellence. The Edge 4 boasts 4 pole motors and 7-inch casters to help negotiate real-world obstacles. Switch-operated LED accent lights are integrated into the casters for increased light projection. The Edge 4 continues to improve upon Quantum's well-known independent smooth ride suspension. It comes available in 17 color choices, including 9 brand new Quantum colors. The newest addition to Quantum's successful Edge lineup, the Edge 4, is available now. Check it out at quantumrehab.com.
And Gene, before I turn it over to Bryson for a question, when you brought up Rancho Los Amigos, when is the last time you've been out there?
Oh, actually, it was about 15 years ago. I got to work with their RERC center. Um, so, but not that long ago, but not that recently. How about
Ye
yourself?
I go about once a month, and you should see it now. I mean, the new, Kanabe Center they have there, they have a
Oh,
pool there now. They have, 701, 702, 703, all that's gone now. It
oh,
is
really?
Yeah, so the next time I go out there, Gene will make sure we exchange numbers, because what I'll do is
Oh, love it.
I'll do a video call, and I'll take you on a tour of how it looks now. You wouldn't even
Oh,
recognize
cool.
it. It is just like it is like amazing. Bryson, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm gonna take it up one for you when I'm out in LA for the Abilities Expo.
Sounds good. Let's do it. We'll definitely
Let's
do it.
do it, man.
We'll hang out together. So,
All
Bryson, see
right.
Bryson, me and Gene are having a moment right now. Rancho Los
All right.
Amigos. So Bryce, what we got to do? We got to bring you out here to California, take you to Rancho Los Amigos too, and you'll definitely understand it'd be money.
I know, I was feeling like a third wheel there for a minute, but I got it. I feel it's okay. So, Gene, I guess one of the things that stuck out to me from what you were kind of talking about is kind of the question to people with disabilities. You say, "Hey, what is working for you that you don't want me to mess up?" And I have to think with physical therapists that the amount of different conditions that are out there, your head's got to be on a swivel constantly. So, how do you feel? You've had to adapt over the years to meet the needs of people with various disability types, and on the back end of that, how do you avoid that one size fits all approach that kind of a lot of people with disabilities are put into? So how have you had to adapt over the years?
Thanks for the question. And yes, I think what's really important is to be self-reflective as a professional and really ask, am I making a recommendation because I'm really comfortable and familiar with this product line, adjustment, whatever. And and it's also true, I work really closely with the ATP community and the suppliers because it's really in that partnership. It's a three-way stool as far as I'm concerned. Um, and I have to challenge both of us. Like, are we really offering people a wide variety, particularly when somebody says, I'm interested in trying something different, or um, this hasn't worked out for me as well as I had thought it would. And being open to saying, you know what? Let's experiment. Let's try some trial equipment. And I'll add to that, particularly as around when the Abilities Expo is coming around. I often say to people, before we do any specification, why don't you go to the Abilities Expo, check some stuff out? It's like having the auto mile in your backyard. And when someone comes back and they say, "I'm really interested in trying X model from Y manufacturer," I make every effort to make sure that I have that demo available for them to try. Because my experience is one of two things are gonna happen. Person's gonna try it out, and they themselves might find out it isn't what they thought it was gonna be. It for whatever reason, it could be it's not a good place for them to hang their keys that they're used to hanging in one particular place. So the armrest is hard to flip up. Like, I can't predict what it's going to be. But they themselves look and say, you know, this isn't working for me. What else is there? Or something that I didn't think was going to work at all for somebody, it turns out to be great for them. And I learned something. So being open to at least say, I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but let's try it together. And that takes something that I don't think people take enough of, and that's time. You gotta take time, and you gotta say to the person, if it's okay if you don't like this on the first pass, we can come back and visit it. So giving people permission to give you real feedback and take the time to arrange for more than one demo at any one time.
I love that. And something that resonated with me too when you were talking in the beginning, Gene, was about how life begins when you get home, when you get out of rehab facility. I go back to when I was released. I My father had to make sure that we had a ramp to get me in the back, so we had to do that. We had to put offsetting door hinges to
Mhm.
my bedroom because my bedroom door was not big enough for me to get through. And all those things, I believe that we're now having more conversations from wheelchair users in the past, some of the struggles that they have had. And Gene, whenever you work with a patient and you're getting them ready, specking them out for a new chair and everything, are there some things that we as a community can do to make PTs and ATPs jobs a little bit more easier? How thorough should we be when it comes to explaining what we use our chair for and
Mhm.
what some things that we should be aware of?
Yeah. Um, dialogue, dialogue, dialogue is so important. Um, I really love your question of what could you be thinking of that can make the team process, because it's really a team process. And one of the things that I like to inquire, but if you come in ready to respond, I think it's really helpful. Think about your day. What's critical when you're going from your bed to your chair? Is there something about the chair that makes it easier to do that transfer? Is it the height from the floor? Like, really thinking critically, and go through your whole day, going in and out of your house, in and out of the transportation that you use. If you spend part of your day in a different environment, whether it's school or work or whatever, and then I always like to ask people, are their weekends different than their weekdays?
Mm.
Because often you don't wanna miss out on, what are those vocational activities? What are those leisure activities? What are those social activities? And, you know, hey, I connected with a music group, and I found that uh, I want to be able to be at a high top table. That
Mhm.
and until you were in that environment, you didn't really you didn't have that need, but now you have that need. So, really think critically about your daily life, what you enjoy doing, and either, as I said, what's working well, because we'll try and keep those features in mind, and then what hasn't worked out so well. Um, and then, because unfortunately, when we are seeking funding, it goes back to what's the medical necessity. I ask you to say, what's my functional need? And are you comfortable? How often do you need to reposition? How's your skin condition? These are bits and pieces. Has any of your function changed over the last 3, 4, 5 years? So, Bryson, you mentioned you have a progressive disability. Like, w- what are you looking to prepare for in the next 3 or 4 years?
Mhm.
Paul, we're all kinda aging a bit.
Yeah.
Have you seen any changes that, um, maybe you can't sit as long, and you are worried about your skin condition? Bringing those, um, future concerns up helps us build in some, uh, flexibility, or, um, options that can be changed without having to start from the very beginning again. So, uh, a little diary about your daily life, weekends, and then I bet for both of you, a question I always ask is, who else is helping you around your chair? And
Mhm.
getting input from your, um, you know, personal care support team. So helpful. Hey.
I You know what, Gene? I'm glad you said that, 'cause Bryson, I never thought about that before, to include, my wife is always with me whenever I, get spec'd out for a chair. But Bryson, that's pretty cool that our caregivers, our families can be involved, because sometimes they can see things that we don't see. Like,
Yeah.
no, remember when you ran over my foot when you eat something, so
And or that headrest
Yeah,
post gets me in the
yeah.
yeah,
or do I
I
have a
definitely
place
agree
to
with that,
hang the
and
bags? Or, go ahead, Bryce.
I definitely agree with Paul. I do think that you mentioned the personal care support team. Like, I know Paul has his wife and I have my parents. And so it really is kind of a team thing. And even though, Paul and I are the ones with the disabilities, our family members are still kind of affected as well. So and I guess for me, one thing that I'm kind of hearing it as you talk, Gene, and you are involved in a lot of different things is your passion for physical therapy. And I know you mentioned earlier how you started as a student. But before that, how did your passion for physical therapy come to be? Was there a specific moment as you were growing up that you said, "Hey, you know what? This is what I want to do for the rest of my life."
So, great question. I really appreciate it. So, uh, my dad was a physician, and
Mm.
he was, when I tell you old school, literally, he practiced for 15 years before there was Medicare or Medicaid. So, he was a single practitioner, little black bag, did house calls, like total old school. The good news is he had an amazing wife who raised 5 kids as he was a really busy guy. And so even as a pretty young person, um, I was really interested in healthcare and potentially medicine, but I asked myself this life balance question. Like, do I want a career that literally is all consuming? Um, and in many ways, being a physician, you at least have to be open that it might be all consuming. And I was in grade school when a friend of mine, her dad was also a physician, and she said, have you ever thought about physical therapy? I was like, hmm. And the more I looked into it, what I really loved was enormous amount of uh, real patient care, literally hands-on, face-to-face. We got to do the fun stuff, and I wasn't responsible for overnight care. I wasn't needing to be in an emergency room if somebody had a health threatening condition. Um, and then I was so lucky, Bryson, I was able to volunteer in high school, and I was volunteered at a facility at the time called the Massachusetts Hospital School. It's now called the Pappas Center, just south of Boston. And it was a 5-day residential school for kids with disabilities. And on campus, the kids had a residential, they went to school, it was recreational, it was therapeutic, and so I was the transport aide for a couple of years, and it was ironic kind of how I come full circle because what really interested me was, look at all these chairs these kids are in, and turns out that I got to go back to the hospital school as my first job. And I had 21 children on my caseload, 1 ambulated, and everybody else relied on wheelchairs. So I think my dad was a little concerned my first Christmas when I asked for a socket wrench set for Christmas. That's what I really needed to keep the kids' chairs rolling. And uh, I was lucky enough to recognize that my skill set was really identifying the mobility device to let kids be as mobile and as independent and establish their agency and get in trouble and, you know, maybe not pay attention to the adult that was in their world because they had the means to leave, to just take off like any other kid would be able to take off. So shortly after that professional experience, I got involved with RESNA, the Rehab Engineering Society of North America. And so that really blended technology and disability for me. But pretty early on, it was being able to work directly with people and to make a positive change in their life, whatever their experience is. I'll also tell you that technology was much more exciting to me than hands-on therapy. I got to see a change a lot quicker. So, put somebody in a chair and off they go, as opposed to 6 weeks of exercises before I knew whether the range of motion was gonna change. I wasn't patient enough for traditional therapy.
Mhm. Got you, got you.
Thank you for taking us to your origin story of what got you into being a PT and your love for assistive technologies. And want to kind of shift focus a little bit now. Let's talk about the independent care system and
Sure.
what that means for you to be a part of that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, in 2001, actually, interestingly, a supplier who I've had a long working relationship with called me up and said, "I don't know what you're up to right now, but there is this very cool group in New York City, and I think there's a collaborative relationship that could come here." And so at the time, the founder of ICS was a gentleman by the name of Rick Serpent, and we always reference Rick as a social entrepreneur. So Rick was somebody who uh, had actually been involved in the disability community through personal care services, and he recognized that programs that he was designing really for seniors to be able to live in their home and age at home. He was getting increasing calls from people with disabilities. And fortunately, he, in his thoughtfulness, said programs designed for seniors aren't actually going to meet the needs of younger people with physical disabilities who are wanting to fully participate in the community. So, how can we morph one program into another? And he was also smart enough to reach out to some talk about pioneers. I was a babe in arms when with this group. So, two of my colleagues, Marilyn Saviola and Anna Fay, were both women who were active in the disability rights movement, and they were high school, college friends of Judy Heumann. So, if you
Oh,
want to
wow.
talk about
Yeah.
grassroots disability activism, these ladies were right there on the forefront. And um, actually, all three of those women, interestingly, were polio survivors. And they had met in New York as part of a group of young people who wanted to have as independent of life as possible. And Marilyn was the founder of the Center for Independent Living in New York City, and Anna was part of the Westchester Independent Living Center. And what they recognized was Rick was providing an opportunity for blending the medical model and the social model, and really put our money where our mouths were, basically. And being able to take a group of disability competent people and use the Medicaid benefit to support people to live in their own homes. And when I met Rick, what he said to me was, "Yeah, the two things that I really underestimate was how hard it was for people to get the right equipment and for them to be able to keep that equipment repaired." And so I got to go out in the community, and I'll be honest with you, that was where I just got jazzed. Like, what can I do in this home? What what kind of devices? And it could be, you know, a ceiling lift. It could be the slider bath chair. It could be, um, oh, you can use a manual chair in your studio apartment, but it's not real helpful if you can't get more than one block away. So, oh, radical. What if we gave you two devices? One that works in your home and one that works in the community. And then we really blew it up and said, okay, we now have 1,000 members. We now have 1,500 members. We now have 3,000 members. What do the members tell us that they need? And one of the things that came through loud and clear was, I need my previously owned chair to be repaired so that I have a backup. I have a backup right in my own home. Whether my home is a studio apartment, I don't have a garage, I don't have a basement, but I want to know that if I wake up in the morning and my primary chair is not working, that I can get in something and continue with my day. So we built a repair program. And what I always like to say to people is the backup is your personal loaner. And this is a place where I think we really need systems change. And for those of you relying on a wheeled mobility device, it's your right to have access to a device every morning that you get up. And it shouldn't take 10 days, 20 days, 90 days to get your chair fixed. But whether it takes 2 days or 90 days, those 2 days, you still should be mobile. And so not only did we meet people's individual needs, but then we built a system of care. That's where Independence Care System was really built around what did the members tell us were critical. Um, and I'll tell you on a professional level, what I learned to be able to say is, okay, we made a mistake. We could take that chair back. Somebody else could use that chair. I'm sure of it. And let's go back and figure out something that is going to work for you. Um, and boy, that's a privilege because so often we're told, "Oh no, you have to use that chair for the next 5 years." Man, that's a steep curve. That is a steep curve. Never to make a mistake in 5 years.
Definitely makes sense. And Bryson, this is, yeah, I'm glad we're getting a inside look of how everything is done. So our listeners and even us, we're getting like we're getting to see what goes on under the curtain, man.
Yeah, most definitely, Paul. And Gene, I think something that I want to ask you about, and I know you've mentioned a little bit, is some of the obstacles you have to overcome to get people the equipment that they need, whether that be from a government standpoint, whether it be like you said, kind of how insurance companies like to say, hey, you can only be in this wheelchair for 5 years, and we'll pay for a new one. So how do you kind of overcome some of those obstacles, whether it be finding funding for some of this equipment and also kind of overcoming maybe some time frame issues as well to get people the care that they need to help them with their independence?
Sure. Well, thanks again for the question. I really appreciate it. Um, so first of all, I'm a really big advocate for actually knowing the policy. So oftentimes there's like, um, I'm going to call them urban myths. So one, for example, is you only get one chair every 5 years. Well, that's that's the general regulation. But if you've had a change in condition that
Mhm.
prevents you from using that chair, then there is a medical justification for why you need a replacement chair less than 5 years. So it's articulating a change. And, Bryson, for somebody like yourself, where there's a progressive disability, and man, we're hoping that we can plateau that current function for as long as possible. But who knows what the exacerbation is? If suddenly the way you operate the chair is no longer functional, nobody should say to you, you have to have your mother drive that chair for another 2.5 years until you're eligible for your new chair. No, that I need to be able to drive this chair. The current chair I have doesn't allow me to do that. What can we do to make that change? So, one's being knowledgeable. Two, I think you folks can be squeaky wheels. So, you talked about time frames. You should have an expectation that if you need a letter of medical justification, and you haven't gotten it in 3 weeks after the appointment, 4 weeks after the appointment, pick up the phone. Hey, I want to get this process rolling. You're the first piece of information. If your doctor hasn't signed it, get on the phone. Hey, you can be your best advocate to keep the process rolling. Call the supplier. What do you mean that you don't have the quote ready? I need the quote because I need to keep this process going. Then, the other thing that you spoke about were the barriers. And I'll tell you what's a real challenge is clinicians are being asked to do this enormous documentation. And then we're frequently enough asked a request for more information. Sometimes I want to just say to them, will you deny it so I can appeal it? Like just, but we've done all of this work and then you might get a denial. And this is again where I think partnership is so important. And so this is where I reach out to the consumer, to the people like you. Do you want to fight? Because if you're willing to fight, I'm willing to fight with you. But fight's going to take some time. And we have to be in this together. And all too often I don't think we fight enough to be able to build a repertoire to say current policy is insufficient. Now, I have to give a little bit of credit where credit's due because it doesn't happen very often. So CMS, the Medicare policy, which by the way, the policy that Medicare writes up is often adopted by private insurances. And it's often adopted by states to be used for their Medicaid policy. So when I see a change in Medicare policy, I like to point it out to people because it's often going to influence what your private insurance is going to do. So first of all, they did approve a seat elevator function. Hallelujah. Finally. I mean, it's
Mhm.
such an essential, functional addition to wheeled mobility. So they did that. Most recently, they took away something that was a big barrier. If you didn't have a specific diagnosis, regardless of your function, you didn't qualify for certain pieces of equipment. Well, they've removed those ICD-10 codes. They've removed the codes. That's a really big opportunity for clinicians and suppliers to now open up their eyes and say, functionally, what does this person meet? So that was a really big benefit. Now, one of the big barriers to people who rely on Medicare, and often you'll see it in private insurance, you'll see the stipulation of, do you need this device in your home? And what they'll say is, it's okay for you to use it outside, but your fundamental need has to be in the home. Well, that is a huge limitation to technology development and access to other technology. So I'll give you a good example. Both of you guys are power chair users. You're probably using the same chair indoors and outdoors. There's been an explosion in really good technology called Power Assist. Power Assist on the front, Power Assist in the hubs, Power Assist under the chair. Do you need Power Assist in your home? Probably not likely. So to really see the benefit of Power Assist, you have to play this crazy game when and oftentimes people with Medicare, they can get the chair that they need, but they can't get the Power Assist. And that's just fundamentally, it's just wrong because we not only do we have the ADA, which is saying you have a right to live in the community, you have an Olmstead decision that says you should have access to the least restrictive environment. And by the way, Section 504 says you shouldn't be using federal dollars to discriminate against people with disabilities. Well, I don't know about you, but saying you can only use a device in your home feels like discrimination to me. So, really taking an activist view, and this is a place where I don't think the professional community pushes the boundaries enough to say, yes, this person needs this in the community. Go ahead and deny it so that I can stack up my denials so that I can go to Congress and I can say, this is the impact of this policy. This is the number of people that are being denied because of this policy. What I see happening instead is, well, we won't actually write it that way. And, well, we can't really ask for that product because that's really what's needed in the community. Like, I bet both of you guys could really benefit from a group 4 chair, a chair that has much beefier motors, a chair that maybe has tires that'll allow you to go over rough terrains.
Mhm.
You're not
Absolutely.
offered that because, quote, group 4 isn't a covered item.
Mhm.
But if we were if we were more united in voicing our needs, I think we could make a bigger impact on policy. And frankly, not let the bean counters drive what you have access to. Um, and that's unfortunately what the current state is. And it's not gonna get any easier in the next couple of years with the Medicaid cuts that are coming our way. So even more reason why we have to be united. And um, I I want to cue the conversation for the disability community to get out there and voice what you need access to, because the therapists are often looked at as the mouthpiece for the suppliers, and the suppliers are looked at as slimy salesmen. The people that have real legitimacy are you guys. And you guys need to amplify the voice of what you need access to and what you don't have access to, even more importantly. You know, what's new technology that you don't have access to because it's not covered?
See,
Hugely important.
that's why many refer to you as a pioneer in physical therapy because, this this legacy that that you have built and continue on is really shaping up and helping the community. And this is my last question for myself, and that is, what's next for you?
Ah, keep on keeping on, man. Like, I, I got to tell you, I'm fairly officially failing in retirement because I actually love what I do. And so, I do, if you go all the way back to how did I get into physical therapy? I was looking for that work-life balance. Well, um, the fun stuff in life, I have to put on speed dial at this point. Like, I gotta make sure I put those fun rocks in. Um, but man, I wanna stay active in this policy world and pushing for the change. And what I really see the opportunity is equipping you guys to have the knowledge that I have so that you can be really forceful, knowledgeable, and articulate, not just spokespeople, but advocates at the table saying that policy isn't going to work for me. I'm the beneficiary. That doesn't mean I'm passive. That means I'm an active participant. And it's not an advisory council. It's a team member who's a part of the policy making. And if I can feed you the information, that will be my great pleasure. And that's where I want to be sure that the Marilyn and Annas of the world that taught me, that I'm giving that back to you folks and and even the next generation coming up. I often hear people say, I grew up with the ADA. I didn't know I had to fight for these things. Yeah, well, guess what? You're gonna have to fight now. And you not even fight for keeping what you have, but making sure we're fighting for what it should be. What is the equitable mobility solution, not the bare minimum, not the medically necessary item, but the item that lets you have full participation.
That makes so much sense. And B Money, it's on you, bro.
Gene, one thing you mentioned when you were talking about fighting and kind of people with disabilities getting out there, and one thing that my grad program that I studied a lot is kind of the idea of community within disabled communities, right? And so you're involved with some really great programs like the peer-to-peer wheelchair maintenance program and the honor roll program that kind of does build that community. But how do you feel that people with disabilities can kind of help create camaraderie with others? Maybe not on the lines of condition, but how can we all kind of rally together and fight for these things? What would you like to see, I guess, from us and our communities as a whole?
Well, thanks for bringing up the peer-to-peer and honor roll activities. So, uh, first of all, the disability community is so powerful in providing support and sharing information. And I'll tell you, I mean, I'm a wheelchair geek, but I always learn something new when I hang with a bunch of people who have the lived experience and building those opportunities. And you know, COVID had a lot of downsides, but man, look at us. We're face to face in conversation. I think those online opportunities, we just have to keep building them. And one of my favorite sayings is the genius of and being sure that we find places to be together in person as well. So, uh, when I ask people, "Where did you learn that kind of, uh, cleanup and tune-up activity? Where'd you learn that trick of, you know, keeping the spacers together when you take the caster wheel off in order to get the hair out of your casters?" Invariably, either somebody was hooked up with a peer or they, at the time, decided, "You know what? I am gonna live my life in a wheelchair, so who are my other peeps in this world?" Sports teams are often, the first level of connection, but increasingly, I think there are arts opportunities. People find each other because they enjoy, music together or they enjoy, uh, engaging in artist activities, accessible gyms. So, finding those places where you can bring people together and then you start sharing information. "Hey, anybody know a good way of solving this problem?" So, I the other piece that I think is so important is there's a process by which somebody decides that they're going to identify as being a person in the disability community. And that's a real journey for a whole bunch of people. And some people it's longer than others, and some people like never want to make that identity. That's okay. I meet people where they're at. But when somebody's ready, like let let's get them together. Hey, if you live like I live 60 miles outside of New York City, hopping on a subway isn't an option, but hopping on a Zoom call is an option. So meeting people, figuring out how we can put people together, um, and and giving that connection and safe spaces to ask whatever kind of question you want to ask. Um, I think that's so important, and really pointing out when the system isn't working for you. And I think what I empathize with is you guys have to fight for everything.
Mhm.
And I can appreciate when you get tired and really stepping back and saying, I heard the the New York State ADAPT program is literally having a demonstration today or policy meeting. and it's called Keys to Community Living. And I think that's such a great way of saying, what is it that I need in order to stay in the community? And bringing people together around those needs and doing it as a whole community so that it isn't the Muscular Dystrophy Association, it isn't United Spinal, and it isn't the, the IDD community, and it's like we as people with disabilities need the following supports to get to the same start line as our able-bodied peers or non-disabled
Really well said.
peers.
Yeah.
Really well said. And I think that that's so important. Paul and I have seen the need for it. I mean, we already knew the need for it through Quantum and our brand ambassador program of kind of building that community. And I think, like you said, there's some practical things where we don't necessarily have to be face to face or in person, and being over Zoom, we can make just as much impact. So really, really well said there. And I guess we've touched on a lot, Jean. And I have one more question for you, and it's
Sure.
it's for our listeners as well. So how can people find more information about the programs that you're involved with? How can they support those? And also, where can they find more information about yourself?
Sure. Um, so Independence Care System in is www.icsny.org. And there's a ton of information on our website, including our mobility program that is called Honor Roll. And Honor Roll has a New York City centered services, but both a wheelchair clinic and a repair program. And myself, I mean, feel free to Google. Like, is I'm gonna be completely transparent. I do not have the largest social media footprint, uh, partly because I like getting out, just doing stuff, and I don't have a 17-year-old at home to help me log on and build that presence. But on a professional level, PT to PT, OT to PT, I will put in a plug. My colleague Michelle Lang and I just edited a second edition of a book called Seating and Wheeled Mobility, a Clinical Resource Guide that's available on the web. It's under $100. It's an incredible resource. So from a professional development, feel free to, look for the book, and it also has video embedded in it, and you can get it as an ebook. And then, you abilities expos, clinician task force, uh, just keep your eye out and I really do want to offer people, anybody that is interested in public policy and amplifying the voice of the folks with lived experience, feel free to email me directly. So it's Jean, Jean, dot Minkel, Minkel, at icsny.org. And love to connect and look to build the coalition. Good. There's need at both the state level and at the federal level. And it's only by being in community are we going to actually move the dial.
Awesome. Jean, thank you so much. It was so great to talk with you and to meet you and spend some time with you. And we can't wait to have this opportunity again. I know you and I will see each other in person at the Abilities Expo in Los Angeles. Well, it's going to be in Long Beach next year, but
Long
still,
Beach, that's right. Yeah.
still the same
Not far.
area.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely get a chance to see each other. And thank you so much. And that's the amazing Jean Minkel. Thank you so much. And Bryce, any closing words for our wonderful guests?
Jean, you're incredible. Thank you for all the hard work that you do for all of us. And thank you for coming on today and giving everybody some really practical advice too, and also some lived experience of, your passions and things like that. So we're so thankful that you joined us, and we're right there beside you in the fight. And
All
so
right.
thank you for all that you do. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Cue the conversation.
I love it. I love it. I love
Yes,
it.
ma'am. Thank you.
Bryson, I don't know about you, but that was a great conversation that we had with Jean Minkel. She is amazing. She's a PT pioneer. She's an OG, and I really enjoyed talking with her.
Yeah, Paul, I definitely agree with you. I think this episode today taught me a lot. I think for both of us, we have to kind of have these barriers and obstacles that we have to deal with. And so getting kind of to hear her perspective on that, and also to hear all about the great programs that she's doing to give people the independence and assistance that they need. That's so important in this day and age for people with disabilities, and it's really great to know she's out there fighting. Wouldn't you say, Paul?
I totally agree. Senior Vice President of Rehab and Mobility Services, at ICS of New York. I mean, that is amazing. She has a lot of responsibilities, and so glad we had a chance to talk with her. And Bryson, but before we go, I'm gonna give you a little sneak peek of our new intro. You want to hear it?
Yeah, lay it on
Okay,
me, Paul.
here we go. Here's a sneak peek.
It's Bryson Foster, B Money's the name. And Paul, I'm a dead slaying in the game. We cue the conversation.
That's just a little taste right there. What do you think about it?
I like it. I like it. Sounds good. So I'm excited to see what the full product is, and for everybody to get the full taste of it coming soon. That was
You
like an
know,
ice cream sample, It's a
yeah,
tease almost, but
yeah, and I'm hoping Keith gives us the green light to play it next week. If not, audience, leave Keith a nice little message about you want to hear the rest of the song. We'll get Keith in trouble. We'll make Keith insta famous, right? Right, B Money?
yeah, we'll have to send out his email. You get a lot of stuff in your inbox, Keith. Sorry, not sorry, but
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share these episodes to carry the conversation, and we thank you all so much. I'm Paul Amadeus Lane. That's the amazing.
Bryson Foster, and we will see you next time on Cue the Conversation.
Cue the conversation! Quantum Rehab supports open and candid conversations between our hosts and guests. Views and opinions are theirs and do not necessarily represent the collective view of Quantum Rehab.